ladies and gentlemen, it is 4:30, so we'll go ahead and get this meeting up and running. It is our typical work session, but it is a called meeting, so we do have an item that we need to make sure has the ability to be voted on tonight. So because it's a called meeting, we kind of change our agenda back around to make it our typical meeting agenda as we go. As we get ready to kick off, you have one, I don't know if I want to call it an announcement, but just a kind of clarification on something before we go in, and that is dealing with the roads. I know that we had another road that had to be closed for some repairs today. It got pushed out on social media as sinkholes, and I think that the public's thinking that we're having sinkholes that are popping up all over the county. I want to clarify that just a little bit. They're cross drains, which are the storm drains and some for streams that do cross underneath the roads. 2 of the 3 road issues that we've had over the last month have been cross drain failures. Thompson Road was one a couple weeks ago, and then today we have one on Hill City Road. The cross drains, the water started to feed back in on the side, which was eroding some of the edges, so they went in, and Kirk and his crew went in to get that drain removed and replaced and trying to get the roads open back up. The other one was an old water leak that had occurred about 1.5 years ago. It was repaired. Nobody knew that it had washed the dirt along the water line out at that point in time. So the repair was made 1.5 years ago. The road's been perfectly fine. Apparently, eventually enough vehicles went across it and caused it to sink in at one spot. And I guess because we used the word sink in at one point in time, sinkhole was the word that everyone started using. So we don't have a major sinkhole problem. Or I think you used the movie Tremors. We don't have a worm that's eating up the dirt underneath, and we're not seeing the soil. We've had people that were buying property that were concerned about buying property because they thought that there might be sinkholes. It's just cross drains. It's some older pipes that are going underneath the road that are to help the water drain, and eventually they have to be replaced. Unfortunately, we've had to replace a few all at one time. So I just wanted to clarify that one. I know the progress had called me earlier today. Wanting to ask a couple of clarification questions because I think a social media post had shown sinkholes. We're not sinkholing. We just got some repairs issues, so we're trying to get through. But as we've got the meeting called to order, I'm going to call on Kenny Woodard, if he would, to open us up with our prayer and invocation. And then following that, since Director Elrod just came in, I'll have him lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Most our precious Father, we come to you again, Father, today to say thank you, Father, for the lives we all have, the jobs we have. Father, we just ask you to be with our EMS, our fire and rescue, our police, everybody, Father, keep them safe. Father, we ask you to lay your hands on those in Texas, Father, that have lost loved ones in this flood that's going on, Father. We look to you for everything. We ask you for your many blessings, Father. We love you. We thank you for everything you do for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I know that was provided to everyone. I want to make sure if anyone had anything that needed to be corrected or amended. With no amendments, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
I'll second.
So move in a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, with no consent agenda items and no old business items, we'll move into our new business item. First item on the agenda is consideration and approval of a resolution to call for a referendum election to reimpose a special 1% sales, special purpose local option sales tax, SPLOST. This is a resolution. When we had a meeting and discussed it, we had a resolution to initiate the process. We had another discussion at our last meeting on the percentages and the path to move forward with a 5-year special purpose local option sales tax upon the expiration of the one that we're currently under, which will expire in June of 2026. So in order to make sure there's no gap in coverage there, we would like to put this referendum out in November. So this would be a call upon the Board of Elections to initiate that elections process for November. The population breakdown in section 1 of the resolution before you guys shows the population breakdowns of 85.78% being Pickens County unincorporated, 12.3%, City of Jasper 1.65%, City of Nelson, and 0.27%. Time I'm talking about these are from the 2020 census population numbers. With that, the total estimated SPLOST collection over that entire period for all those parties involved would be $63 million. The breakdown on the projects is contained within the referendum language. The first $3 million for a level 1 countywide project, which is the construction of the tax commission operation facility, equipping, furnishing, and improvements, along with the remodel of the space that's currently occupied. The remaining percentages are broke down within there. The language in Appendix 8 would be the language for the ballot question. That's shall a 1% sales tax be reimposed in the special district of Pickens County for a period of 5 years. It goes through the breakdown of the percentages that would go to the cities and to the county and the countywide projects. It also does state within that referendum language that if the imposition of the tax is approved by the voters, such vote shall also constitute approval of the issuance of a general obligation debt of Pickens County in the principal amount of $33 million in whole or in part to fund all or portion of the level 1 project or county projects capitalized interest, and if any debt is for the issuance of the debt. The reason for that portion to be within there so that we can actually move forward at the beginning of the SPLOST period on the projects related to parks and recreation, public safety facilities and infrastructure, and the water. If you combine those three together, you end up with that $33 million so that we're not waiting 5 years for the collection for those things to be able to take place. If we can do it at the beginning if the bond was to install. You know that you guys have had everything before you. This would also send this over to the notice to the Board of Elections for them to have a meeting to call for the election. And that would go to Ms. Godfrey as the election supervisor to present before the Board of Elections later this month. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that. And if you have, do I have a motion to approve the resolution and call for elections?
So moved. I'll second the motion.
Have them do it in a second. Any discussion or questions?
No, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The district requires all of our signatures. That. I believe the Board of Elections is going to meet later in the month that we do the official call for an election. We should, by the end of the month, have the renderings from architects and engineers to be able to provide the renderings of the different construction projects as we get through and present to the public what those will look like. They're in process now, so we should be there in that time. With that, next item on the agenda is consideration of terminal construction project in Pickens County Airport. This probably could have just fallen on the work session just to provide an update. Spoke earlier today by email back and forth trying to set up a meeting with the contractor that had the contract for the construction of the FBO, the terminal project there at the airport. That was awarded under the Airport Authority in August of 24 was when they signed that engagement. There's been a year that's been a delay dealing with AWAS and other things, and we've been looking over the pricing and material and size and scope of the project. Got a meeting scheduled, hopefully I say scheduled, we're in the process of trying to schedule the exact time for next week with the contractors so we can kind of sit down and get clarification of where they're at, what they've moved forward with, and the cost of the project. At present, when you look at the square footage of the facility, it is over $500 per square foot for the contract that was awarded at that point in time. So I do think it warrants a review to make sure that we're in scope and in line with what's there in the current market and what everything is in place, and reviewing that contract in depth. Following that meeting, should be able to have a much more in-depth conversation as we move into our next meeting, either in July or our work session in August, so we can actually have a good work session discussion related to that. In that same scope of just kind of updating and opening up that conversation, we have now selected the date. You guys might actually remember it better than I do, where we was going back and forth on dates. for our first town hall meeting for this year, which would include a town hall at the airport. And that is August the 7th, I believe.
Sandra.
Yes, August the 7th. So we're trying to get that all pieced together right now in order to have that town hall set up on August the 7th at the airport. Mr. Launder, who is finishing the construction phase of his large hangar there, has offered to allow us to use the hangar space that he has. We meet with all the aviation-related individuals and pilots. That's one reason we have to wait until August, because there's the dates we try to pick before the conflicts with pilot events. So just wanted to kind of get you guys up to speed on that. I know that there's a lot of questions in dealing with that contract as we're trying to review it. Had a course of action we were kind of looking at, but then in follow up with the contractor, felt like it would be better to have that conversation with them before we go deep into that conversation in public meeting. And yeah, but we know we're all on the same page. Y'all have any questions or anything related to that? All right, they're going to move on to the next. There's no action necessary on that one for tonight, so we'll move into our work session discussion items. And the next item on the agenda is the work session is a review of the land use intensity district change requests. These are the ones that came from the latest planning commission, and Ms. Gooch is going to make that presentation. I get that her name right 2 months ago. If you ask Michelle.
Yeah, good job. Oh, you know, here. So the first one we have this month is George Jones, and this is actually a property that's owned by Invocation, but Ms. Joyce would be the one that is purchasing it. So it's located at Highway 53 East and Marblehead Lane. The request is to get a 0.72 acre portion of the 39.46 acre tax from the water. That parcel number is 050B008. The intent is to combine that 0.72 acres with her adjoining 1.3 acre parcel that's also social car. So you can see the one that's outlined in red is the one that the marble company owns, and then hers is that little outline in blue or green right next door. And then this one actually shows the 0.72 acres that she's requesting to be rezoned, combined with her land. She said she wants to make a garden, so this gives her a little bit of garden space without having to worry about being on my property. So it does fall into the rural residential character area, which is consistent with this recommendation. The staff recommendation is approval of 0.72 acres to be taken from Ag to RR with a condition to be adjoined with 050B 007. And then the planning commission voted on this. They voted 6 in favor, 0 opposed to recommend approval of 050B 008 to go from Ag to RR.
Any questions? Good. Next.
So the next one is 190944, which was Matthew and Diane Kinzer. They're located on Highway 53 West. Their property is currently zoned Ag, and they're requesting to take it to ER on a 14.15 acre parcel. Mr. Kinzer has lived here for most of his life. He recently moved away, but for retirement, he's looking to move back. And so in order to do that, he wants to be able to sell 9 acres to be able to have the money to move back and build a house on the property that he wants to keep, which is the 3 acres. It's located, like I said, right off of 53 degrees up north, where on that it says location map, but it goes down Ring Road. And then on the next piece, you can see there's an easement that runs on the left side of his property down towards the back. So it is landlocked, but it's served by a 60-foot easement all the way around. That portion that's on the right, that's separated by a creek that's kind of highlighted in blue, that's what he plans to treat. And then what's on the left is what he plans to sell. It's in a suburban resident character area.
Yep.
Staff recommends approval of the rezoning of 14.15 acre property identified as 040068001 for HAB TER. And as I stated, it will be split into 2 tracts, one for sale, one for the owner to eventually develop on. The proposed site does not have an anticipated adverse impact, and it is secluded in the area that it's in this for vested character. The district, it is designed for mixed residential densities and neighborhood commercial activities. Planning Commission voted 6 in favor and 0 opposed to recommend approval of the reason request on 040068001 from Ag to EPART.
like it's, I mean,
That, just for clarification, you said it's coming, the access was coming off of Ren is where the.
Yeah, it comes, so there's a 60-foot easement that comes off of Ren that continues on back. Mr. Kinzer explained it to me. He said back long ago when he bought the property, he said that he and all the adjoining property owners actually have an easement that starts at the top of Ren and wraps all the way back onto property a good several acres back behind it. So it goes all the way back.
okay.
Yep. So the next one is conditional use 190948 for Mr. Stan Fitz. This property is located at 350 Camp Docks Road. That's 227.96 acres that consists of 3 separate parcels. The intent is to use the 247.96 acres, probably not all of it. He's going to be using it as a winery for the tasting room, and he would like the conditional use to be able to also have the farm store and a small place for events and cooking classes. This is his property. It does show on here that it's SR, but he came in and downzoned a while back to ag, so it all is known to ag currently. The SR parcel that's on the right-hand side, that's shaped kind of funny, that's where the winery will actually go. And then he's already got the vines planted in that big open field right below it. That's a vision. Well, sorry, I forgot there was a map. So that's where it's going to go. And then that's the vision of kind of what he wants the winery to look like. It is in the rural residential character area. So staff recommends approval of the conditional use for the winery related uses on these 3 tracts totaling the 247.96 acres. It's located within an agricultural district, and those parcels are 063-103, 063-103-029, 063-103-030. The applicant's requesting permission to include the associated uses like the tasting room, farm store, cooking classes, and other small events. Our recommendation does include the following conditions, and that's that the applicant must cooperate with staff to ensure compliance with safety protocols, parking requirements, and other applicable code regulations, and that the attendance will be limited to the maximum capacity as to by the car marshal. It is situated within the rural development design area, which helps maintain the traditional rural character of this part of Pickens County. The proposed use is not expected to have a negative impact on the surrounding areas, in line with the vision with preserving a rural character. He did also mention in the meeting that he had spoken to all of his neighbors. They had talked to all of them except for, I believe, one of them and everybody that he had spoken with said that they were on board with it too. Planning Commission voted 6 in favor, 0 opposed to recommend approval of the proposed conditional use request on this big piece of air process.
Right. Questions? I need to.
And then the last one, so this one's a little bit different because it's not just like a regular conditional use. This is one that you guys threw, I think it was a month, maybe 2 months ago. It was Mr. Paulson did come in and was asked to obtain a conditional use for his equestrian facility and event space. In that, there were conditions added. So this was him coming back and requesting a revision of the conditions. So again, it's located at 131 Revis Road. That parcel is 067D090-002. And his initial intent was to use the 14.3 acres as an equestrian facility and event space. You can see where it's situated at on the map right before you get into Cherokee County. It is in the Crossroads community. Staff recommended approval of the conditional use modification request to expand the existing equestrian facility into the event venue. And then it goes in the very last one, which is number 4. He had said that he was okay with the conditions being added. The only thing he was asking for a modification on was amplified sound. I think it was initially noted that it would end at 8, and he's requesting that it be extended to 10 p.m., which is what staff is recommending approval on. Planning Commission voted 6 in favor, 0 opposed to recommend the modification of that condition for approval.
Didn't he say how many rodeos he plans on having? How often it would be?
He didn't. I know that he had said that it. Charles, do you know if he said exactly how
He
many?
didn't give a number, but
No.
I can give an educated guess. They'll be boarded to or 3 a year.
Okay.
Because
He's in partnership
with the high school.
With the
That's what I
high
was
school,
gonna say.
Pickens County High School.
He has small like events, but they're not like rodeos. And we discussed with us being staff having the actual rodeos. Those were going to be the ones that were specifically for the high school events, which would be, like Charles said, I would assume, or no more than maybe five a year. Yeah.
I'm good with it. That's it, good. Well, thank you, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good. Next on our agenda item is a discussion. This discussion, something that's came to on multiple occasions to staff with people with different requests. Is a discussion to potentially consider a call for referendum election to consider package sell stores of distilled spirits in unincorporated Pickens County. Presently, there is the ability for a store to sell beer and wine in unincorporated Pickens, but there's nothing for distilled spirits. We have had a number of inquiries that have came in, the majority of which are in the Marbleville area. I do believe there's been one or two other requests that have came in, but they're different people that have requested, and according to state law, there's two different paths forward. There's one is they can go the path of getting a petition signed by a percentage of the total population of the county, which would be several thousand people on a petition, or the Board of Commissioners has the ability to call for that election to be placed on a ballot at that point in time. I know this is one that's a sensitive subject that's gone back and forth throughout the history of the county. It's not really been as sensitive in recent. Especially with the city of Jasper's city limits going the direction they do. I think a lot of people probably already think this exists because they believe that one of the Trouts locations is in the county when it's actually in the city. There are certain state law regulations that deal with the number that an owner can have in certain ways as far as hours of operations. My reason for putting this on a work session conversation is not to take a stance for or against whatsoever. I'm always a firm believer in put it out to the voters and put it out to the most voters that we can. Let them make the choice if that's what they want to see happen or if they don't happen. I don't think you've got to take a stance that says we want to push for this or we want to push against it, but it does give the voters a chance to then do it. So in order to do that is to put it out on a referendum and allow the voters a chance to vote. And that's something. For now, it's just on the work session, just to kind of get a discussion to see where you guys stand. And then if that is something that we share kind of a similar, then we can kind of move on the path forward as to how that's done and then to work with other counties on trying to take a look at how they set up their ordinances in addition to state law and to how that's regulated in terms of how far apart they have to be in terms of the space, the size, all those different things that they can be a part of that. So I'm kind of throwing it on the table to see your approach, what you guys feel, and then we can look at put it on the future voting meeting at that point in time if it's passed. I know when we get the public comments, I do believe we've got at least one individual that wants to come and speak to us about the topic here in the public comments portion, but I want to open it up to see where you guys are waiting.
I'm an advocate for the election. That's think about Ferris went to it. And I don't think I would problem with the election. I would vote no, but I could go to vote. But yeah, I don't mind together if you come up to.
And I think that's going to be a strongly divided vote. I mean, it's just, but without putting it out on the ballot, you know that. I mean, you really, I mean, it could be one that's voted down unanimously. It could be one that's voted in favor of unanimously, or it could be a neck and neck, which is always the fun part. In our shoes, 1 and 2, I think election. But I'm kind of with Commissioner Tippins, and I do believe putting it out lets people vote. I don't have a strong for or against. It's not like people aren't able to drive 5 miles an hour and they can pick up what they want to pick up. So I'm not taking a stance on my opinion on it. I do just believe that the put a chance to vote puts it in their hands. Now, I think the question becomes on when do you call for that election? I know that we're kind of time locked on our SPLOST, put it on the November of 25, which is an odd year election, which typically has resulted in lower voter turnouts. We don't have a choice on that particular one because of when the SPLOST expires. I do believe putting it on a ballot that has a larger number of people, which I believe the next one would be the primary election in 2026, which would be May of 26. I think Stacy is coming, but I didn't see her. She could tell us that exact date. But it would be during the primary election for the state races that occur in 2026. Would have a larger voter turnout historically than what would be in the 2025 election cycle. That does give us a little bit more time to make sure that the language is correct before we send it over to the Board of Elections. But that's obviously open for discussion as well. So, but with that, I'll work on preparing the language to be prepared at a future meeting, and then we can kind of go in that direction. That way we can give the prepare language to vote on approving the referendum or the call for a referendum election. If that's good.
I can go back.
Yes. Okay. All right. Obviously, like I said, when we get to public comments, I do believe we've got someone that wants to speak, and we'll open that up at that point in time. Next item is a discussion of adding a three-way stop at the intersection of Buchannan and Wilkie Road. This is something we had a request come in a while back due to the travel is primarily with the speed and kind of the way the intersection flows on Wilkie Road. We ran a couple of speed studies. We did reach out to our engineers with Rochester to have them come and take a look at it to make their recommendation. Their recommendation was to place a three-way stop. They did have some specifics as to where the warning signs will be located, approaching, because there is a hill that approaches from coming from the east back to the west. You top a hill before you get there. That would include a 400-foot intersection. Before we put it up to vote, I wanted to make sure everyone felt comfortable with that in terms of discussion and to give y'all a chance to ask Kirk any questions that you may have in terms of how that one goes. That is one of the projects we're currently working on, chip seal there on Buchanan Road, so that will be a smoother intersection there without the gravel. We have had a couple of neighbors that have had comments on numerous occasions for the speed of traffic, but because the way that one flows, there's really no way to get a radar certification for it. So it's trying to put a traffic control measure in place with their recommendation. I believe y'all have a copy of the recommendation letter in your packets as well, that you could take a look at. So open that up to whatever you guys. So,
We weren't talking it much, no. But you haven't.
one of us is.
I think it's probably a good idea. So probably needed right there.
Yeah. Kurt, do you have anything you want to chip in and add? I know getting the engineer's recommendation kind of gives them a chance to look at it from a
That kind of takes the burden off of us. We're probably going to lean toward what the engineers say or in what y'all say, of course.
Backed up.
All right. Well, with this lengthy discussion that we've now had on this topic in the review, with the review of the graphics, I believe we'll put that on the agenda for our voting meeting in July. And that way it will be wonderful. We'll present what we think. Okay. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
That sounds great.
All right, so the next two items on the agenda kind of work together. They're both going to be Chief Prather is going to go through and discuss. First is the discussion related to the purchase of the ambulance and fire truck, and then the next is going to be an update on the upcoming ISO rating. Before I ask Chief Prather to come up and speak for a moment, I would like to point out a couple of years ago, we did make your birthday a holiday. So every employee has the ability to take off on their birthday as a holiday. I've been advised as we were about to start the meeting from a handful of people that were texting me as we were getting the meeting up and going that today is Chief Prather's birthday. So we get to celebrate with him by calling him up front to have him speak at a meeting. I'm sure he was really excited about the opportunity to come and spend his birthday with us. But we're also reaching a point where birthdays mean a lot. These are good years. So, Chief, I'm going to turn the floor over to you as I pick on you. I'm not going to ask everybody to sing because I think the quality of sound may match up with mine. But the clicker should be there on the.
Just going to have Captain Elrod lead us. And
We guys did the same.
Just for record, before this came up for the night, I had planned a fishing trip for today. So that got postponed.
Cool. We appreciate speaking.
But anyway, thank you for allowing me time to come forward you tonight to speak about some issues dealing with our fleet maintenance, specifically with our pertaining to our ambulances and our fire trucks. I even got an eye-wetting experience with some of this that I discovered during my research on this. I'm going to talk about 4 items tonight: ambulance replacement schedule, fire apparatus replacement, official ISO results, and then the announcement of our new deputy chief. I'm going to talk about the ambulance replacement burst schedule. You'll notice right there, that's a couple of units we purchased this year. And so far, they've been working pretty good, and they should for what they cost us nowadays. But for those that may not know, just to bring awareness, we run 4 frontline ambulances. We run one out of Tate, which is our Station 2, one out of the Cove Road Station, which is our Station 5, then Med 6 out of the Hinton Fire Station, and then we run one out of the Airport Fire Station. The picture you see there is Med 11 out of the Airport Fire Station. Right now, this is our ambulance fleet. We're still running a 2014 Dodge, and we purchased those 2 2024 Fords last year. We put them in service this year. So until we bought those 2 this year, or put them in service this year, the last one we bought was in 2019. And if you'll notice, the mileage is piling up on pretty quick. The ones highlighted in yellow, those are the ones that are kind of dead in water right now. They're being repaired. So I want to bring attention down there on the 8 and 9 ambulance. This is our average mileage per day right now, 125 miles per day. That comes out to about 45,000 miles a year we're putting on these trucks. Compared, if you look at that 2014, we probably was putting that much miles on in trucks. So it just kind of shows you our increasing demand on our trucks. That kind of surprised me what we've already got them in trucks in just 2 months or 3 months. We put them in service in February, but that's on average just those 2 trucks this year. Right now we're looking at an average of 45,000 miles per year on those trucks. I found it strange. I've always been a Ford man to the bone, but everyone that highlighted ambulances are Fords. And if you look at the oldest trucks, Dodges, when you see the white trucks on the road, that's our oldest trucks. And they're the ones that still running. So I'm not beating up on Ford, or I'm just giving you the facts. This right here is what was Med 5. This was the newest truck we had until we bought those 2 new ones. And this in the shop right now. That was the picture was taken last Friday. We have to put a motor in this truck here just to keep us a reliable reserve fleet. Expensive repair. That's it, and that hurts every time I see that picture, to be honest with you. Anyway, the current status, we've got 2 new ambulances we just put in service this year. We've got 2 ordered that we ordered in February of last year. Right now, they're still projected to be delivered in January of next year. So it'll be 4 new ones. So my proposed plan, with consideration given that we're still just running 4 trucks, is that we purchase 1 ambulance annually, we replace a frontline truck. That will mean every 4 years, one of those frontline trucks would come out. So in theory, every 8 years, you'd be weaning your trucks out of the fleet. Right now, looking at 150,000 miles plus per year. When these trucks start getting that mileage, they start costing us money. That's just a fact. So the plan will be, as we purchase a new one, we try to get one out of the fleet. Right now, we got 9. That one truck there, I was just pointing to right there, we was going to take it out of the fleet, but it was the newest truck. Body-wise and everything, it's in good shape. So that's the reason we made the decision to go ahead and keep this one, put a new motor in it, and it would be a good reserve truck, and start working out those oldest trucks, the 14s and the 16s. But one of my guys said today that Med 111 is one of our best running trucks right now. It's 9 years old. Not compared to the trucks. But anyway, that's where we're at with the ambulances. I have been working on some quotes, and it's really shocking when you see the cost of these ambulances coming in.
We got 3 quotes here, one from Safe Industry, which is a road rescue ambulance, and one from Hunter Apparatus. They sell the Fraser ambulance and first class emergency vehicles, and they sell the medics ambulances. The 2 that we'll have delivered in January will be the Fraser ambulances. You know, if you worked to want to standardize your fleet, that would probably be what we should go with. But it's hard as a taxpayer when you see a truck that you've got a quote on this $115,000 less. It's hard to not at least give that truck a chance. This right here is photographs of a truck up in Pickens County. They run these medics ambulances. I don't know how many they got. They've got one on order that had to be delivered. I did call Hurt County. They run 7 of them. And any issues that either one of them talked about was always tied to the chassis more than it was the box, the ambulance manufacturer. So, in conscious, you know, if we can order an ambulance, I think we need to go with the medics ambulance. I see nothing wrong with this truck right here. It seemed to be built good, and I put the crew on the spot right there. So, would y'all recommend this ambulance to purchase? I got to buy an ambulance in Pickens. They said, by far, I'd buy this truck. So, for what I've seen of this truck and talking with Chief, I think it's Chief Rice, Hurt County, like I say, they run 7 of them. They've got one on order as well, wait for delivery. So, it'd be my recommendation to go with the whole bill or low quote on this right here. We ought to purchase an ambulance and at least give them a shot. Pickens County stands by them. Their closest neighbors just running them. So that would be my recommendation on ambulances. This would give us 5 new ones. This is, I think, 12 to 14 month delivery days. So you'd be looking toward the end of next year before you would get one if you ordered it today. So that would give us 5 fairly new ones. Got to put a new motor in that old Med 5. So that'd give us 2 good spares this summer. That would be good on if we could get on that schedule of 1 per year. I don't think we'd be in a situation where we have that now spending. I don't know what we spend on repair. We spend a lot of money on repair. That's a lot of money on repairs over the last 12, 24 months. So sum it up here would be my recommendation. Like I say, even as a taxpayer, I say I could at least give this medics ambulance a shot. And see how they perform. $115,000 is a lot of money. To not accept that. So if you got any questions at this point on that truck, where it's on the ambulances,
Like, Chief, I've talked about this a couple different times, and we were talking about standardizing the fleet. Right now, we've got the 2 bronze that we had to pick up because they were available. We got 2 Frasers coming, and we get a medics. Well, we'll actually get the chance to really see how they all work on the terrain. So as we move forward, we may feel like medics is the better one for standardization, and we may feel like Fraser's the better one for the future moving forward. So it gives us all 3 as part of our fleet on the newer. A lot of them doing. And turnaround time is still over a year, typically on the order.
makes it, I think, 12 to 18 months is what they're saying right now.
So if we're waiting on one in January, if we order this one tomorrow, it's still going to be a year to a year and a half before that actually arrives and it is in the fleet.
Motion to approve.
Well, it's not. The intent was discuss them tonight, and then, like the others, have it on the agenda for the meeting coming up. Make sure we follow up again with finance and with Diane and our SPLOST numbers.
Right.
We've looked at them to make sure that we believe, but I do believe that the next topic is another one that's going to be similar. He's setting us up. Because as expensive as ambulances look, the fire trucks look a little bit more. So, not necessarily this particular one, but fire trucks do get a little expensive. So, that way we've got in 2 weeks, we can have it on the voting meeting agenda. We can make sure that we're in good shape and SPLOST, that we can clock ourselves out on that community. But
I feel pretty good with this truck. And they do those are 350 chassis. We'd be expecting 450s or 4500s.
Or we not like,
So we'd have a little bit bigger chassis for what they're running.
that's when you go up, we'll stop us.
All right, you already took the thunder on these
well,
things.
we figured you right into the fire trucks. Yeah, makes ambulances.
This is our engine 11. This is one of the last trucks that we purchased.
This is what's called a customized truck. I don't know what this truck cost back when it was bought, but I have a feeling probably the price of the one will be breaking here just advance. This was one of the last two. These were bought in 2018. Right now, we're supporting 11 fire stations throughout the county. That includes all the volunteer stations, as well as the career stations. Those highlighted in yellow, the Tech Community Code Road, Hinton, Airport, Jerusalem. Those are all staff stations. The rest of them are the volunteer stations. But there's 11 stations that we put fire trucks in. That right there, that's in if nobody's ever saw it. That's up on Monument Road. And I would point out that's E1 manufactured truck as well. Here's a list of all our engines in our tankers in the county. And this is what really surprised me. 70% of our fleet is 20 plus years old. The oldest truck is actually 30. I got it on the line right there. It's actually 37 years old. Our newest truck is 7 years old. That's all. I helped purchase these trucks back in 1999, 2000, and 2004. I was president of the Chiefs Association. And to me, these are still trucks. And it's hard to believe it's been 25 years since we bought them trucks. And if I remember correctly, I think that was the very first SPLOST, I believe, that bought these trucks. But that's where we're at today, 70%. You can see right there, it's over 20 plus years old. We've got a Mac in the shop right now that we were really surprised, even though it's 20, 21 years old, they couldn't buy a part for. And the local mechanics here did find it, but as far as ordering it them, that they couldn't get that part. So, but they did find one. They didn't tell me where they found it, but they found it. But that's in the 2004 model. So this was surprising to me. I didn't realize I had gotten this order when we bought those trucks. But some of these trucks are really good. I know Bentley Sample trucks are really good shape as far as looking at them. But what we're getting into is as they get older, just get the parts to them. So I think we're fortunate right now that most of them are running pretty good. But you'll see down there on the bottom, the Kenworths, we bought 2 tankers in 2019. That bottom section is tanker, the top section is engines. So the last engine we bought was in 18, bought one in 2010, and before that it was within the early 2000s. So that's where we're at with our fleet in general. So I think in the next 5 years, 10 years, that we can be in trouble. Be really careful, stay on top of this. We've got a real aggressive maintenance schedule started this year. I wanted to make sure every truck is serviced, all the brakes and everything set on this year. And I think we're about 4 trucks shy of having that completed. Get good service, do a little bit better for preventive maintenance. But this is the facts. This is where we're at with our engines and our tankers. Currently, there's no fleet orders. If you ordered a custom truck today, probably looking at 24 months, 2-year delivery. Plan I come for today is to purchase a commercial pumper that's ground ready. It's ready now inside the Station 12. This truck right here is assigned to Station 12 right now. This is one of our Mac tankers. We call them tenders as well. These trucks are designed for water, to move water with the same support frontline engines. We had them spec back in 2004 to be able to pump to get ISO accredited. So we got backup pumpers, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, this is on the truck we've got at Station 12. We have an older truck. There used to be a Station 2 that would run out of this station, but we have to move it to 13. 13, these trucks won't fit in 13. So we had to move that front line pumper out. So we're running this truck front line. It's winding up in the shop a lot. This picture was taken last Wednesday. It's in the shop as we speak. This is the one they couldn't find the parts for. This is a truck that I'm looking and proposing to replace to get a tanker off front line response. And we put a regular engine out there. This would replace that truck Station 12 for front line response. And our oldest front line truck would be 15 years old at that point. We put this truck out there. Right now, I've got it in SPLOST plan. It's purchased 5 engines. If next SPLOST was to get approved, you do that, then your frontline pumpers, I would propose to move into slower stations that would get more life out of them, move them a little bit slower. And then the overall goal would be to run these trucks frontline 15 to 20 years put them in reserve 5 years, and they get them out of the fleet when they get 25 years old. That might be too optimistic. You know, trucks 15 years ago, you could depend on that. But right now with the electronics, you know, technology outruns us now with electronics. So I don't know where we're going to be on these newer trucks with electronics in 15 to 20 years. But right now we've got a 38-year-old truck out there. You don't have electronics on it. So, but that's where we're at with our current fleet. Unincorporated, which makes the E1 trucks, we've got 3 of these trucks in our fleet right now. They have a road-ready truck, and that's this picture of that truck right here. It's a commercial rescue pumper, not a custom. It's road-ready right now, minus it needs some shields in it, but that's how it looks today as I stand here talking to you. It's 2004, it's 24 Freightliner. It's got a 1,500 gallon pump on it, hauls 1,000 gallons of water. That's pretty much what our whole fleet does. We try to keep all of our trucks at 1,000 gallons. And that's the price of it. That's the quote, $439,000. Well, commercial truck. It's about the price of an ambulance. You want to go custom, we're probably looking at $1 million a truck. Well, no, I. So this truck right now is ready today. It's sitting down at Milledgeville. And it's available to us right now. There's no wait nothing. If we get to the point of purchasing that truck and replacing 10 or 12 and get it off the front line. So any questions on the pumpers? I know it's kind of a...
They've tried to get Commissioner Tippins to drive one home from Savannah at 2 conferences in a row that essentially we had a PO that sent him on in it that day. So
you know, it worries me as if it's cheap to spend this for a long time to see as much electronics as they're putting in these trucks. I think they're going to be more disposable than they've ever been after 20 years of service. And it's hard to see that far down the road. But it is what it is today. If I've got the ability to get as much of the electronics off, I do. But it's pretty much a basic stock truck is what it is. Nothing fancy on it.
Can I ask you a question? So, other than the extended cab, right, for the custom cab models, what benefit does the custom $1 million truck provide that these commercial trucks like?
These truck chassis are built, garbage trucks, dump trucks, are built to be a little bit of everything. They're not built to go from 0 to 60 and nothing. These trucks, if it's in a slow station, like a volunteer station that's running 1,000 calls a year, they'll last. But if you put this truck in station 11, you know, a busy station, you'll wear them out in 5 years, 10 years. They just can't take that kind of pressure. The custom trucks are built for that kind of pressure. It's like they're just built, all crew, they're just built for that. If you go to the E1 factory, look at a custom assembly line, they'll start with the axles, and they're built from the axle all the way through the cabs and everything. They're built for the fire service. I think that makes sense.
it up. Question. So we can have that one again, meet with finance, make sure we're in good shape, and then try to be prepared at our meeting on the 21st. And that way, like I said, this one's ready. It's not one we have to wait for a year to receive if we have the ability to involve them. If y'all are comfortable, we'll work with making sure that that's prepared for the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I don't know if we'd be in a situation like we were something else we purchased in the last 12, 18 months. Bill may remember there was a company that asked for a letter of intent. So nobody else grabbed this thing up. I don't remember what that was, but
I think, a letter of intent is not a binding. We did do that with the one week. I think I can go forward with that tomorrow now that we know that the board's comfortable to do that for the meeting after we meet with Brandon Funded. So before I do a letter of intent, I'm going to make sure she doesn't come after me. But yeah, I believe we would be checking it up. And at the next item that you got on the agenda is one I'm pretty excited that you get to come before everybody with. So,
any questions on the fleet at all? Either one of them? It's something we're going to work at, and we're going to try to do as much preventive maintenance as we can to use this like run.
All right, next one's a biggie. We did officially get the results of our ISO review that started back in August. It's been a 10-month process. I think we're a little harder on this year. And just to bring us up to date with it, what happened with us this year is we've added 3 stations to our review. I was worried if it's going to hurt us, and adding 2 volunteer stations and a career station to our operation. I knew it was going to be a difference. To what extent, I didn't know what it was going to be. Our first results come back that we need to work a little bit harder than we did. And our work paid off a couple weeks ago. I did get the results of that review. So as of October 1st of this year, Pickens County will be maintaining their ISO Public Protection Class 4-4Y. That will include the Talking Rock community. The struggle over the last 24 months. I've wrote 3 dozen letters to residents up there, but now we can tell them that as of October 1st, they'll be in a Class 4-4Y Public Protection Class. Long await that. It took a lot to get here, and I put together an ISO team back when this first started. I was going to take a few minutes to recognize that team that helped get this done, because it's a lot of work. And here was a comparison to our last review. I forgot I had this in there. This is how we graded in 25 to 2018. You can see we lost probably a little over 8 points, in just about every area. The community risk reduction area, which was the fire marshal's office, we gained a little bit in it. But overall, our biggest hit was in water supply. We lost a little over 5 points, our water supply. And I think we're all know we need to work, but do the best we can to prove that. But in comparison, that's where we scored. You need that CC to keep your 4. So divergence is basically the way it's always explained to me, Sherry, maybe. No. Divergence is you can have the best fire department in the world, but if you don't have the water, they penalize you for that. Or you can have the best water system in the world and not have a good fire department. And that divergence factor is to bring a balance to that side. It's always been confusing to me, but our divergence went just a little bit. It wasn't that much. But in the end, that was our final score, and we kept that 4. Now, I admit to y'all this week that during my research this week, I went through this thing, fine-tooth comb, and I did see a mistake on our side. There was a supplemental sheet that didn't get submitted. So I feel like our score would probably be a little bit higher if that supplemental got submitted, but that was something that actually my mistake, supplemental that gets in that. But outside of that, it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference. Any questions with this part of it? All right, this is the ISO team that helped make this happen. Everybody in the fire department contributes to it, between hose testing our trucks. We got to do other maintenance. So the whole fire department contributes, but I had that team to put together that spearheaded this. And I had Sherry call that. She was supposed to be here. So I'm going to choke her for not showing up. She told me she shouldn't be here. But Sherry Collette, I worked with her at Cherokee County. She's as good as anybody outside of ISO with ISO stuff. And she kind of led us and got us in the right direction. Christina Wood, our 911 center director, she got worked pretty hard too, I think more than once, on getting that data. Philip Dean, he was Johnny on the spot getting his information in. I think he had it to me in 2 days. Keith Elrod, I had to put in parentheses right there, survived. He probably got beat up more than anybody on training. I mean, every time we turned around, we would submit what they were asking for, and they wanted something else. And got Elrod would say, well, I already sent that. We have to send it again, because they're asking for it again. But that's what beat us up pretty hard right there at the end, was the training. And our lead healing, we were doing it, was just getting what they needed. So I had to put that in. They say you had hair at one point, but we should have written it. Then at Shane Callahan, Jeremy Johnson, Fire Marshal's office, again, you saw on the score, we got a little bit better score this time than last time. There's a lot involved there with the fire safety education, the inspections, all that falls into play with the our marshal's office, and then with the career and volunteer members in our organization that help create it. stay all day up. I have some letters of recommendation I want to present to these guys and gals for their part in that. So if you'll come up, for those that are here, Sherry Collett's not here. Philip Dean had to go out on a water break. Get Melrod, can you come forward? St. Callahan's not here. Jeremy Jones is here. Baker.
Christian.
Can't. Christian. I'm looking, I got.
I know you heard upset.
I'm not. That's good stuff.
Yes.
On the turns.
Christian, I know what a print is. Ain't find it. There.
That's payback from Christmas Eve.
Yeah, I already did. So I got letters of commendation I want to present to these folks here. This letter is to acknowledge and recognize you for your assistance with recent Pickens Fire 2024 ISO review that began last August. As you know, it took lots of preparation for that review to take place. Your help with the ISO team resulted in our success in maintaining our ISO Class 4-4Y. It's because of people like you who are dedicated and willing to go above and beyond your normal day-to-day duties that simply make this community and country a better place to live. It's a great pleasure to acknowledge, recognize, and honor you for your contribution that I hereby offer you this letter of commendation for a job well done. Please keep up the excellent work. I wish you continued success and a great future with your career. Christine. Lady Leathers.
Director Elrod, did you come up when everything first and think who's at least got down there? Look at keep
Captain Jones. That Milrod. I thought Megan's name was up there. Megan's the one that does all this, the hard labor stuff. I mean, one day she had the free fire plans and find her about like that. I'll put all that to it.
Maybe the top.
Anyway, I appreciate what y'all done. I know what it took, and I know, you know, especially that man on the end down there. He got beat up training. But Christy, I know you got called a bunch too. Fire inspections, y'all know what it plays into. So it took all that to keep what we got. We'll do better. We'll do better next time because we'll work on it. So, okay. We're saying nothing for hot cow. We'll stay. Deep gold. Very good.
Where's your eye down? Who's running?
I got chicken meal.
Don't mess scratch down.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. My last item is to announce our new deputy chief. He started, actually today is his first day on the job. And this is Thomas Capps. He lives here in Pickens County. He's got over 30 years fire experience. He brings to us from Cherokee County. His last 6 years, he served as battalion chief. He's got his associate degree in fire science technology. He's already got his Georgia Fire Chiefs Association Chief Fire Officer certification. His NTQ Fire Officer 3. Not many may be familiar with the Card Instant Command, but young Rand Pickens, you're about to learn. He's got he's big in special operations and technical rescue. He's already got the low angle rescue, and he starts actually the Instant Command training tomorrow from Blue Card Command. So great to have him on board. I've known him for a long time. He brings a lot to the table. I think you're going to see a big difference in short term what he brings to our county. It's going to be a lot of help for me. We're really going to take off. I'm very optimistic, proud to have him on board. DC, if you stand up. This deputy chief. And finally, I dug this photograph, to go with our thank you to the Board of Commissioners. This is our fire recruit training class that we had graduation this year. These folks completed the MPQ Firefighter 1 class. I believe it's the first one of this kind that we've had here in Pickens County. This is reflective of what we're trying to build here in Pickens County. There's 17 new firefighters in that photograph. 4 of them are full-time firefighters, career. The rest of them are volunteer. This is what we're trying to work on and build.
and continue to build our volunteer fire service as well as our career folks. And we can't do without y'all. We appreciate it all the way down to Bill Wood, my boss over there. It's on everybody. It takes a lot to get it done. We can't do it by ourselves. We only part of saying thank you with our group together. It's reflective of what we're trying to keep building out here.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so as we're finishing up discussing several different fire things, I know we didn't have an agenda item. There's been some instances that have occurred that we were trying to take a look at. We're going to turn it over in the comments from the board as we go through the discussion and let Commissioner Tiffins kind of talk about something that's been on his mind and try to work through. So we think to that. So.
Yeah, so I don't know, pass the thought, whatever's going on in the county, there's our county, but in the country as a whole, we've had a couple of instances where first responders and firefighters were injured or out to be killed while responding to emergency situations. And the thought occurred to me that, why don't we give them the opportunity to arm themselves to protect themselves from a defensive perspective anyway, and what it would take for the county to develop some sort of framework that would essentially allow a first responder on the fire EMS side of the house to have the same legal protections that a deputy or the marshal or anybody else would in a public safety capacity. So I don't know what the discussion portion of that would look like, but that's the idea that I've got in my head. Obviously, it would be a voluntary process in my mind. You couldn't just show up for work holding a gun, right? Georgia law, I think, dictates that you have to work pretty closely with the sheriff in instances where you would set this up, whether that be yearly psychic evaluations or getting certified with the firearm in advance. Lots of different things that would have to be worked through before we ever got the policy set up. But whatever that looks like in the future, I would like to open the discussion to see, I guess, how everybody else feels about it and what the possibilities look like. So,
I like the idea. I think this would be a great idea.
Yeah, I like the idea. I also think there's the liability that we've got a lot of questions that we've got to take a look at. I mean, that's what we've got to go back and forth. It would be simple just to say, yes, we trust you and we've hired you, but then there's a lot of training. There's a lot of things I know you mentioned working with the sheriff's office. There's a lot of background things that typically people in law enforcement have to go through prior to. And to bring somebody in on a volunteer basis is if they felt that at that point in time, and I'll use a psych for if somebody voluntarily takes a psych just to be able to carry a gun and if they fail at the psych, do you keep them as an employee or are you stuck with having to dismiss them because they couldn't pass it? So I think we've just got to iron out the details. I like the idea where you had reached out to, you'd mentioned to Lisa and Bill and then reaching out to insurance to try to verify where the liability stands are there. I like the idea of getting the court to reach out to other courts in the state to see what other counties in the state have pulled the trigger. All of the nice. On allowing this. But have actually went and moved forward so that we could see what they did in terms of whether it's by resolution, by ordinance, by policy, and then get all the material that we can. Because I think it's something that you're going to see more and more go on. I think Chief Prather mentioned the need for, where they secured on the trucks and where that. I think there's just a lot of things, but I do believe that over the course of the next month or so, we can gather that information and get it a safe opportunity. Because I do believe in providing the best protection we can. I just think we just need to go through all those. So I appreciate you bringing it forward. And
the devil's always in the details, and I got to be honest, the psych eval really scares me because as a certified firefighter myself, anybody willing to run in a burning building with a quarter-5 water hose is probably going to struggle with the psych eval.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
So you do the good
a lot of former combat soldiers who come out and go into public safety struggle with psych eval. It's just a normal because they've experienced trauma throughout, and it affects at some point in time. So there's a benefit to them, but there's also a harm to them, and to voluntarily submit to it for something. It's just trying to make sure we do it. That's why I'd like to see what other counties have done to ensure. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, most of the metro counties required as a pre-hire prerequisite. Now, a lot of your rural counties have not incorporated that step into a pre-hire prerequisite, but I do believe several metros did. And so it's in the metro areas where that's happened, they've already gone through that before they've ever even got to this phase. So But I like the idea of opening it up, and I think by the time we get to our next work session, hopefully we've got some answers to a lot of these questions. We can bring more thorough discussion again in August.
Truthfully, my concern is liability insurance, and I've got questions into them. So as soon as I hear back from them, I'll bring it back to you.
I like it. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks for picking up. Next we've got is our public comments. Open up the floor for public comments. Like who has anything they'd like to address. I believe you had expressed an interest in being able to, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
Chairman, my name is Sean Iqbal. Is it okay if I pass our handout to you guys?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Search.
Thank you.
And where would you like me to stand?
Wherever. If you want to stand at the podium, that way you can, but you're good wherever.
Okay. So I guess I'll just basically walk you through what this handout says. So we're wanting to move towards a referendum for a resolution for a referendum to allow liquor licenses in unincorporated Pickens County. And what Section 2 says or shows is basically what neighboring counties have done. So it talks about how much they charge for their annual fees, kind of what they require, like background checks, floor plans, or inventory audits, business audits, and, requirements like site security plans and insurance. And then it also goes through and talks about operating hours. For example, Forsyth is Monday to Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11:45, and Sunday is 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. And they require strict camera and inventory rules as well. And then there's a section which shows the annual sales tax or local tax revenue generated. So Forsyth has generated $1 million plus a year in local tax revenue, and Cherokee is at $600K. It's the first year revenue. And what both counties shows is that they have reasonable fees, security, and oversight work, and that provides a decent chunk of the local sales tax. And Section 3 is projected economic development or impact for Pickens County. So this is a case study for projections for one store, and assuming there are 27,000 adults in Pickens County with a $250 average order value, that's $6.8 million in revenue. And then the 3% local sales tax is $204,000 with an excess tax of $176,000. That totals up to $385,000 in local tax revenue for Pickens County. And this money can help our fire departments, our EMS, and local services that we've recognized here today. And in addition, this money stays within Pickens County and it doesn't go towards Jasper, Forsyth, or Cherokee. And residents of Tate, Hinton, Talking Rock, they're more likely to stop in these counties right now, but if we have a liquor license and businesses are allowed to open, then this money comes to us. And there are some objections that are probably going to be in place, and I totally respect Mr. Tatum. I remember that you said no, so I respect your decision totally. But we just this would be like retail only, no drinking on site. There'd be ID scans, cameras, and no loitering policy. Would make sure the structure is well lit, and if people say just go to Jasper, you're throwing away $385,000, and money like that is, that's something towards like an ambulance or a fire truck, so it's important. It's a good chunk of change, and, we'd make sure that there's like clean sites, and, with defenses like cameras and checking for IDs, there's sheriff data that supports that, there's a decline in crime, like with those measures in place. And this isn't for bars or clubs. It's just retail. You just get your order and then you go. It's nothing like that. And I heard that we want to have this placed on an agenda for May 2026. But if this was approved in November, this would allow stores to open in 2026 towards like November or December, and that's like the peak time for sales with the winter and the holiday, and that would account for a good amount of tax revenue as well. In addition, we'd also create local employment as well, and there'd be taxes on their end as well that'd be coming into the county. And, this would also be part of the general election ballot for November. So, growth is going to happen regardless. As the years go by, this is going to come into place like at one time or another. But if we act now, you guys have more control of what, restrictions you guys would like to have in place. And this is strictly just for the license in general, not for any personal reason or anything.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Yeah.
Do we have any other comments?
I would like to introduce my deputy director, Dylan. Dylan, everybody that don't know Dylan, this is Dylan. Been with us for about 10 years.
Dylan's been here for a minute, so
He just got an office though.
he did just.
Takes over the hair now.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations. Appreciate it.
Any others? With done, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. The second.
Thank y'all very much.